Grand Rising. We about to get into the Taurus, compatible with Sagittarius. Now, what is Taurus? Taurus element is fixated. So that means they're fixated in their own ways of being practical, fixated in their own ways of being stable, fixated in their own ways of finding security. And of course, that's Venus. So they're going to be fixated on their own ways of doing things in their own perspective. Nobody can tell them what to do at all. That's just Taurus for you. Of course, Taurus is an earth element. So the ground you walk on is earth. So already, that's a strong perspective. So the longer you give time, energy, and duration to something, the stronger and heavier it gets. That's why Taurus is a fixated sign. That's why earth is strong, earth is heavy. So the Capricorn perspective would be initiating new ways on how to think and be practical, coming up with new ways on how to build, coming up with new ways on how to construct things, of course, being management and control. See, now the mutable earth represents, aka Virgo, being mutable and adaptable, being able to cope with different ways and different personalities by switching things up, but of course, looking at the details and figuring out how to organize and detail things in the perspective, because they're very detail-oriented. But when we come to Sagittarius and Taurus, see, or rip, Venus is exalted in this perspective. Venus is already exalted here. So with this position right here, Sagittarius is fire. That's a fire sign. So it's all about passion. It's all about enthusiasm. It's all about morals and principles and high perspective. Now, Earth is like 3D. That's a firmament. We're down here. Fire is like more kind of like up there, and it's not the real spectrum of everything. It's not the real, it's not the everything. It's not the overall. That it's just a piece of a percentage level of what we accumulate and pick up on this perspective. When you got Sagittarius, Sagittarius is all about being mutable and adaptable when it comes to their ways of broad philosophical points of views, philosophies, higher learning, higher expansion, and of course, growth, traveling, and of course, moving around. See, now, Taurus is more about finding comfortability, and of course, they're down to earth and staying at home at times. Taurus is very hard working. So when it comes to hanging out and just chilling, they may come, of course, as lazy and not movable, but of course they work very hard. That's just the Taurus for you. Don't get it confused. A zodiac sign that's fixated is kind of like the strongest, if you think about it, because they have a strong mentality of as far as getting something done and getting something situated. They're not going to keep trying to find new ways of how to do things. They're going to build that bridge one time, and of course, if something else need to be fixed or need to be predicated or need intention, they're going to basically go ahead and do it. See, now in Sagittarius, the only issue with their perspective is they more mutable when it comes to fire, passion, motivation, expression. So it could be a circumstance situation where they may know a lot, but of course, when it comes to basically putting it down on earth and making it make sense out of it, it's not really here. For me, they above, aka out of this world, out of this planet, out of this domain. Of course, they're very thirsty oriented when it comes to knowledge and wisdom. So of course, their meanings and reasonings may be two different perspectives, because they feel and see. They like the visionary signs. So they vision and they equilibrium is predicated towards going above their horizon and traveling internally through the mind. And of course, the way they think and communicate and interact may be very different. Where how they come across as an earth sign, as a Taurus. See, a Taurus is very fixated in their own ways of thinking and communicating. So of course, like when you talk to them, they're gonna understand and understand you, even if you're a fast talker or a slow talker. But the thing is, they find comfortability by taking their time with things, staying on one subject until they can get the full perspective and full 360 seed fruitation out of the situation. They're going to want to make sure that they get all the knowledge and all the wisdom out of one detail in order for them to basically get to the other perspective. Because that's just their forte. They're going to look at you like you're just too wishy-washy when you keep trying to go from one perspective to another perspective to another perspective. Feel me? They're going to look at it like, okay, you're just all over the place. You need to find a stabilization. You need to take your time with things and try not to rush into things. Also, with this compatibility here, y'all both going to overindulge in your own perspective. Y'all going to love each other. Y'all going to do things very impulsively at times. They're going to do things very overindulgent at times. That could be too loving, too giving, and of course too caring minded at times, too preachable, too teachable at times too. And of course, y'all may go to the extremes with this. If y'all live chaotic, y'all can come up with the feelings and emotions of nervousness, feeling lost, feeling out of tech. That's of course if y'all don't have the equilibrium and the balance there to basically make sure the fire is basically being directed in a stabilized perspective. And of course, Sagittarius, you know, they love to get out there, they love to explore and travel. And the Taurus is going to be kind of an issue thing when it comes to this perspective, because you know, you cannot hold fire into one perspective unless it's a Leo. And of course, Leo, they don't even like they fire basically getting stuck into one position at times too, because they love to be the center stage of the fire. They love to receive the attention. Of course, if you got fire, if you got mutable fire trying to be fixated, it's not going to work. It's going to get frustrated. It's going to feel like, okay, this is not enough. I need more. I need more angles. I need more diameters. And I need more ways to basically come up with this information. This is just too surface level. Of course, I want to rise above the occasion. And of course, don't get it twisted. Sagittarius is kind of like a logical perspective sign. But of course, they like to take things to like a higher level. They don't like to be like at a lower underbridge perspective. They want to basically get above the bridge. They want to have 2 bridges, 3 bridges, 4 bridges. They want to basically keep traveling and going above their perspective on things and their outlooks on things. And of course, they can overindulge a lot at times. And of course, they can be very preachy and teaching. Of course, too caring, but of course, too generous at the same time. But of course, they like to basically come at you with the highest domain when they come with their information. Of course, they don't love being too tied down at home matters. They love to expand and grow. So that's why it's going to be a circumstance, situation, an issue with the Taurus and the Sagittarius. Because the Taurus is more predicated towards being in the house and finding comfortability and security. The Sagittarius is like, okay, you need to get out your ass, get off your ass and try to get some luck at times. Being in the house all day ain't going to really cut ties. We need to basically go out here and experience and basically know more shit and not just look at things in one perspective. Because I'm very mutable, I'm very adaptable. That's my fire. My fire needs to be able to adjust to other circumstances and situations. Of course, that's just the fire, you feel me? So these 2 zodiac signs, they can work together, they can get shit done as far as if it's on a spiritual perspective. But of course, if y'all too much into y'all desires and shit, y'all lost. Sagittarius gonna feel the need to basically, you know, try to like move around, get around at times too. So they're not gonna really be too much predicated towards being in one spot for too long, because you know, they're going to get bored, they're going to get tired of this shit, and of course, they're going to feel like, you know what, okay, I need to move on. I can't be with this Taurus person. This Taurus person is not really, for me, unless the Taurus person got some different alignments and different perspectives and shit, then they can basically get something popping off. But of course, if the shit is just too dry, and there's no matches, no fire, no water, or anything basically to accumulate or come up with a new horizon, then of course this shit ain't gonna really basically work out. It's gonna be shitty. Of course, got both. Taurus gonna be like, okay, cool, as long as I got my comfortability, my security, I'm good. And Sagittarius gonna be like, maybe next time. But yeah, that's pretty much these 2 zodiac signs in a nutshell so far. Yeah.